The movie begins with CEO and Bianca enjoying a pleasant time together. Bianca's sister Maria says it's time to head home as it's getting late. CEO kisses Bianca goodbye and suggests meeting her later at her place. Meanwhile, CEO's wife, Lucia, discovers their son with a cigar and becomes upset. She scolds him, but CEO's mother steps in, defending the boy, saying it's just a cigar. Maria offers the boy some fruit while they wait for CEO to return home. On his way back, CEO is confronted by Linda, one of his mistresses, who is furious because he's been ignoring her. CEO tells Linda to leave when he sees his son approaching. He then tells his son that he's bought a new goat, and they can name it together. Once CEO arrives home, he sits down for breakfast, and his mother questions why he didn't come home the previous night. He claims he fell asleep, but she doesn't believe him, comparing him to his father, who was a notorious womanizer. Meanwhile, Bianca and Maria return home with food for the workers on their father Kuma's farm. Bianca asks Maria to come with her to visit CEO again, but Maria refuses because she disapproves of Bianca dating a married man. Their father, Kuma, orders the workers, who are all young and attractive women, to take a break. He focuses on one particularly pretty girl, telling her she can rest, and then follows her. He compliments her and makes unwanted advances, eventually taking advantage of her despite her protests. Maria overhears the girl's screams and runs away, horrified. Later, CEO heads to a local bar where he notices Luigi trying to exploit one of the farmers. CEO intervenes, telling the farmers to stand up for themselves and offering to buy their crops at a fair price. The farmers celebrate, and CEO buys drinks for everyone. However, Luigi, angry about CEO's interference, visits Kuma to complain. He tells Kuma that CEO is hurting his business and demands an apology, asking Kuma to warn CEO. The next morning, CEO returns home and joins his family for breakfast. He talks about how local farmers are being taken advantage of, but his wife interrupts, asking where he was the previous night. He doesn't answer, and Kuma nudges him, saying he's just like his grandfather. This angers his wife, who starts shouting at him, accusing him of spending the night with his lover. CEO ignores her, grabs a music player, and goes to meet Bianca. Together they listen to music, dance, and share an intimate moment. Bianca confesses her strong feelings for him, and CEO tells her they'll soon move away together, as he can't wait to be with her. Later, CEO and his friend Vincenzo are standing outside the church talking when Bianca's brother walks by, giving CEO a menacing look. Vincenzo warns CEO that if Bianca's father finds out about their relationship, he'll be in serious trouble. That night, CEO leaves the bar and learns that Kuma wants to meet with him. Accompanied by some farmers, CEO heads to Kuma's house but enters alone. Bianca is asked by her father to serve wine, and Kuma begins questioning CEO about whether he knows his daughter. CEO denies knowing her. Kuma then asks about CEO's family, which CEO finds strange. Kuma reminisces, mentioning that he knew CEO's grandfather well, until the old man found a young lover and moved away, abandoning CEO's grandmother and mother with 3 children. The conversation shifts to Luigi, and CEO expresses his dislike for seeing poor people being exploited. Surprisingly, Kuma admires CEO's honesty. Later, CEO is seen climbing onto a roof and sneaking through the window into Bianca's bedroom. He takes her to the barn, where they spend the night together. The next morning, Maria and Bianca prepare breakfast for their father and brother. Bianca can't stop smiling and tells Maria about her night with CEO. When Maria asks where he is now, Bianca assumes he's already gone, as she left him in the barn early that morning. Suddenly, their brother announces that he's heading to the barn to fetch some hay, and Maria decides to go with him. As they arrive, they hear a noise, which their brother finds suspicious. Maria convinces him to head back with the hay while she investigates. Once alone, Maria finds CEO hiding and urgently tells him to leave immediately. In the next scene, CEO and Lucia are at church, discussing their strained marriage. CEO reassures his wife that he still loves her, but admits they've grown distant. Soon after, we see Bianca and CEO together, and she confesses that she thinks her father knows about their affair. CEO comforts her, promising to talk to her father, which fills Bianca with relief. Meanwhile, Maria informs Kuma that Bianca has been seeing CEO. Kuma becomes furious. When Maria returns to bring him his clothes, he demands to know where Bianca has been. Maria tries to cover for her, saying she was just at the store. However, Kuma is enraged at the deception and calls Bianca a prostitute. In response, Bianca shockingly begins to undress, standing there defiantly. She accuses her father of being the one who is truly sick, preying on younger women. Maria quickly wraps her in a blanket, covering her up. In the next scene, CEO watches over his sleeping family, conflicted about what to do. The following day, he goes to see Kuma, intending to confess his relationship with Bianca. Kuma tells him they need to have a serious talk and invites him to walk with him. As they walk, Kuma hands CEO a shovel and instructs him to check the soil. When Co bends down, Kuma viciously strikes him over the head several times, ultimately killing him. Maria witnesses the horrific act, screams in terror, and goes into shock. Co's body is then carried through the town, prepared for his funeral. His brother, Antonio, learns of Co's death and informs his fiancée before getting ready to attend the burial. At the funeral, Antonio arrives and embraces his grieving mother, who is completely devastated. Bianca, despite her fragile state, insists on attending the funeral, but Maria tries to stop her, knowing she isn't thinking clearly. Lucia, along with two of Co's lovers, helps carry his coffin out of the church for burial. After the service, Antonio heads to the police station to inquire about the investigation, but the authorities seem uninterested in finding the killer. Frustrated, Antonio meets with Venzo, who tells him that Co had many lovers, but Bianca was particularly special to him. When Antonio returns home, he finds his family in the middle of an argument. His sister blames their father for doing nothing, while their father, in turn, blames Co for getting involved with the wrong people. Antonio informs them that he will leave for home that night. However, later we see Antonio arriving at Kuma's house. Kuma quickly locks Bianca in a room and goes to meet Antonio. Antonio demands to speak with Kuma, but is told that Kuma is asleep and no one from their family is allowed on the property. Antonio asserts that the entire town knows what truly happened. Just then, Kuma arrives and coldly warns him, saying that if his father doesn't want to lose another son, Antonio should leave while he still can. Antonio, reluctantly, leaves and bids farewell to his family before boarding a bus. The next day, Kuma is in his barn tending to his horses when Antonio arrives. In a fit of rage, Antonio brutally kills both Kuma and his son. Shortly afterward, the police arrive at Lucia's house to question her about the deaths, but her father steps in, refusing to cooperate with the authorities. After their father's death, both Maria and Bianca struggle to adjust to life in the town. No one wants to associate with them, and they quickly become outcasts. With the farm in disrepair and no workers willing to help, Bianca goes to Luigi, seeking assistance. Luigi agrees to help, but on the condition that Bianca does something for him. When he tries to take advantage of her, Bianca stabs him and flees. Back at home, Antonio meets with his fiancée, who shows him the new apartment her father bought for them. Despite her excitement, Antonio remains distant, still haunted by his brother's death. Feeling overwhelmed, Antonio decides to break off the engagement. He writes a letter to Bianca, letting her know that he will visit soon. When Antonio returns to town, his mother is overjoyed to see him. He goes to visit Bianca, but upon entering the house and seeing a picture of Bianca's mother, he becomes visibly shaken and quickly leaves. Confused, Antonio later confronts his father, telling him that the picture of Bianca's mother resembles a woman from an old photo his mother once found in his wallet. Antonio's father reveals a shocking truth: Maria is actually his daughter. He explains that he grew up close to Kuma's family and was even Kuma's best man at his wedding. However, after Bianca was born, Kuma became resentful of having a daughter. He began drinking heavily and mistreating his wife. Eventually, Antonio's family took Kuma's wife in, and a relationship blossomed between Antonio's father and Kuma's wife, leading to Maria's birth. Antonio's father goes on to explain the full story, revealing that Antonio's mother has long been aware of this part of their family's past. Struggling with this new information, Antonio speaks with his mother to confirm what he has learned. After their conversation, Antonio decides to visit Bianca again. When Bianca sees him, she is stunned by the sight. Antonio is the spitting image of his late brother. Overwhelmed by emotions, Antonio proposes to Bianca, asking her to marry him immediately. In the final moments of the film, Bianca imagines herself wearing a vibrant red dress, surrounded by people from the town as they walk together toward the church for her wedding. The movie ends as this vision lingers, leaving the fate of the characters open to interpretation.